All right, so welcome to another deep dive with us. Today we are taking a look at the All-American Center, AAC. They're over there in the DMV area,
Mm.
and they really focus on sort of like this idea of helping people help themselves,
Wow.
especially when it comes to these groups like underserved families, veterans, first responders, and youth.
Yeah, those who really need the support.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
we have got so much to dig through today. We've got donation requests, we've got details about all their programs,
Oh, wow.
we've even got financial breakdowns, and even a little peek into the leadership over there.
Interesting.
So think of it this way. We're kind of piecing together this puzzle, and the big question we're asking is how does the AAC
Yeah.
measure the impact they're having? But not just like, in a year, in the short term, but over the long haul.
I think that's what sets the AAC apart.
In a big way.
That commitment to the long view. Because we're talking about measuring success over a span of 1, 5, even 10 years.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's pretty amazing. You don't really see that with a lot of their charitable organizations.
Yeah, most charities you get like maybe a year-end report.
Right. Exactly.
But this is taking it to a whole other level.
Absolutely.
So why is that long-term tracking so important? What makes it different?
Well, I think it gets at the heart of what they're trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
which is, they have this tagline, redefine stability.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about a quick fix or a handout. It's really about making a lasting change in people's lives.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And to understand if they're actually doing that, you really have to look at the long game.
Okay, so looking at the long game, but how do they actually do that? How do they measure things?
Well, there's a document measuring success that
Yep.
they have, and
Right.
they go into progress tracking. They monitor all the usage data,
Okay.
surveys, even audits. It's a
Yeah.
pretty comprehensive picture.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, definitely.
So break that down for me a little bit.
Sure. So they're not just looking at how many people show up at a program or whatever. They're really looking at how those people progress
Mm.
over time. And they're really specific, too. Like for the educational programs, they're not just looking at grades.
Mm-hmm.
They're tracking graduation rates and even down the line, college enrollment.
Wow. So they're really getting into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not just a, feel good we helped any people.
Right. Right.
They're really digging deep into it.
Using those SMART objectives, is that right?
Yes, exactly. So every goal has to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Okay, that makes sense. So you're setting like a very clear target
Right.
that you can actually track.
Exactly. Like instead of just saying we want to improve kids' reading scores,
Right.
they'll say something like, we will increase reading scores by 1 grade level within 1 year for 75% of the students.
Okay, yeah, so it's a concrete goal.
Exactly.
Mm.
And that really carries through all of their programs.
And they're not just relying on, data and numbers, right?
Right.
I was looking at this letter from the founder to the staff, and he talks about this really unified approach to helping families build a sustainable future.
Yeah.
And it felt, I don't know, it felt very genuine. It wasn't just like corporate jargon,
Yeah, there's definitely that personal touch.
Yeah.
But, it's worth pointing out the financial side, too.
Okay.
He mentions that they're really aiming to keep the overhead costs between 10 and 15%,
Mm-hmm.
with like a whopping 85 to 90% going directly to the causes.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, most nonprofits would be thrilled with that kind of efficiency.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it really just shows their commitment to transparency,
Right.
and that every dollar really counts, so donors can feel confident that their money is being used well.
Absolutely. So, okay, let's talk about those needs that the AAC is addressing, because their needs statement
Huh.
really paints kind of a stark picture of some of these challenges in the DMV.
So they highlight 3 core issues. There's limited access to education,
Okay.
a growing homeless population, and then, honestly, an alarming rate of suicide among first responders.
Wow. Yeah, that last one really jumped out at me. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a crisis we really don't talk about enough.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, especially because these are the people we rely on to keep us safe.
Of course.
And, the AAC recognizes that this is a complex problem
Mm-hmm.
that needs a multifaceted approach. You can't just do one thing.
So how are they putting this into action? How are they tackling it?
Well, they have the program overview document that really kind of spells it out.
Uh-huh.
And they've got these specialized funds. So there's a fund for children, one for law enforcement, heroes, hardship cases, and then veterans.
Okay.
And each of those is really tailored to the needs of that specific population.
Oh, interesting.
So whether it's providing, educational support or financial
Okay.
assistance, mental health resources, or even just connecting people with the right services.
So it's not just this one size fits all. They're
Right.
really trying to understand the nuance.
Exactly. And I think that's their strength.
Okay.
They're combining the data-driven analysis, but also a real commitment to
Mm.
understanding the needs of each person.
Mm-hmm.
It's a powerful combination that makes them effective.
Right. So we have a good understanding now of their philosophy
Yeah.
and the needs they're tackling,
Mhm.
but how does it translate into real-world action? I think we need to get into some specifics
Yes, for sure.
about how the AAC is actually making a difference in these people's lives.
Absolutely.
So we were just talking about, those big challenges that they're addressing, the AAC, like education, homelessness, and that
Yeah.
mental health crisis with first responders. But it's
Mm,
it's one thing to talk about it in these big terms, but I think it's really powerful when you see how it plays out in individual lives.
absolutely. And we have that breakdown of like a typical $45,000 project, right?
Yeah, the financial breakdown, it shows where all the money goes.
Right.
So 40,000 for the donation itself, and then some for supplies and for travel, and like a sliver for operations.
It's really transparent.
It is.
And I think what's interesting there is how much goes directly to the person.
Yeah.
It really shows that they're committed to like maximizing the impact.
Yeah, it really makes you think about where your money's going with other organizations.
For sure.
Like, is it actually reaching the people in need?
Right. And I think that's a key question for any donor to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And the AEC's approach, low overhead efficiency, it really addresses that.
So we see where the money's going, but how about the actual impact? We keep talking about this long-term tracking, but
Right.
do we have any specific examples of how this works?
Well, the Measuring Success document really goes into detail about how they track progress over time. And they use a mix of quantitative and qualitative data. So,
Mm.
test scores, graduation rates, employment statistics.
Okay, so it's not just like numbers on a spreadsheet.
Yeah, and then also qualitative stuff too,
Okay.
like surveys and interviews and things like that.
So they're really trying to get a full picture.
Yeah, a more holistic view.
Do we have any like specific examples of how the AAC has helped someone overcome these challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. One that comes to mind is from their work with veterans.
Mm-hmm.
They helped a veteran who was struggling with PTSD and unemployment
Okay.
after returning home from service.
Yeah, that's a really common problem.
It is. And they provided him with counseling and job training and then also helped him navigate the VA system.
Okay, well, that's just one person.
Right.
So how do they know if this approach is actually working on a larger scale?
That's where the long-term tracking really comes in.
Okay.
They followed up with him after a year and then after 5 years, and they found that he was able to maintain stable employment.
Wow, that's fantastic.
He was really active in the community,
Mm-hmm.
and he reported like significant improvements to his mental health.
So they're not just helping people in the short term, they're helping them stay on their feet.
Exactly. Yeah. And they have similar success stories from, the other programs too.
Okay.
So helping students from disadvantaged backgrounds
Mm.
graduate high school and go to college,
That's amazing.
providing housing and support services to families that are experiencing homelessness and helping them find permanent housing.
Wow, so it sounds like they're really dedicated to this idea of empowering people.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note it's not about like handouts or quick fixes.
Mm-hmm.
It's about giving people the tools to
Yeah.
build a better future.
That seems to be reflected in their diverse revenue streams, right?
Yes.
I remember seeing something about grants and sponsorships and event sales.
Right, so they have this multi-pronged approach to funding.
Yeah.
Which I think makes them more resilient in the long run.
Right.
It also kind of speaks to their commitment to collaboration and partnership.
Speaking of partnerships, how about their leadership structure? I mean,
Yeah.
those board profiles are pretty impressive.
They are. There's people from all different backgrounds.
We got folks with finance, law, education. There's even a former military officer.
And real commitment to service.
Yeah, like many of them have been doing this work for decades.
Yeah.
And then there's that interesting fact about the family connection on the board.
Yeah, that familial tie.
Yeah, it gives you a sense of history and legacy.
It really does. And,
Yeah.
it just shows they're not just a faceless organization.
Right.
There's real people behind this mission.
And they're attracting really top talent, which says something too.
Definitely.
So, okay, we've covered a lot of ground, their mission, the programs, the financials, the leadership, but The question that keeps coming back to me is, how does the AAC's model challenge the way we normally think about these charitable organizations?
That's a really great question. It's like they're taking almost like a business approach
Yeah.
to doing good.
But it's more than just efficiency, right? There's
Yeah.
something about that long-term focus and emphasizing individual stories.
I think you're right. It kind of challenges that idea of charity as like a transactional thing,
Yeah.
a one-time donation
Right.
just to alleviate some immediate suffering.
Right.
They're really taking a more holistic view.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
investing in potential.
And that's a powerful message, especially when so many problems feel, I don't know, so overwhelming.
It's,
It's like they're saying, we believe in people and we're going to invest in them
yeah,
to build a better future.
absolutely. It's inspiring.
It is.
It makes you wonder how we could apply that to other problems.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect place to wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
So what are your final thoughts for our listeners today? I think anyone listening to this has to be struck by how the AAC really changes the way we think about what a charitable organization can be.
Right.
It's not just about, putting a Band-Aid on the problem.
It really is about that long-term
Yeah.
investment in people.
Yeah. It makes you wonder how much more could be done if more organizations really adopted this mindset.
Right. Like what if we shifted our focus away from, just these like quick fixes
Yeah.
and really started thinking about the long term.
Yeah.
Like, moving away from transactional giving to these transformative partnerships.
It's a really powerful thought. It's not just about, writing a check. It's about believing in people
Yeah.
and empowering them to create their own success.
Exactly.
And the AAC's model proves that it's possible.
Yeah. It's inspiring, but it's also, it's a challenge. It really raises the bar for everyone.
It does.
And it makes us think bigger and bolder about how we tackle these issues.
And it shows that impact can be measured,
Right.
not just in dollars,
Mm-hmm.
but in changed lives,
Yeah, in those stories, in those individual journeys.
Yeah, those are the real measures of success.
Absolutely. The veteran who finds purpose, the kid that graduates college, the family that finds a home. I mean, those are the things that
Yeah.
really matter.
Those are the stories that stay with you
Yeah,
long after you forget about the numbers.
exactly.
And it inspires you. It makes you feel like change is possible,
It does.
even when the problems feel really overwhelming.
Yeah.
Well, this has been really incredible exploring the All-American Center with you.
Yeah.
I feel like we've discovered something really special,
Mhm.
an organization that's quietly changing lives.
Right. Redefining what it means to make an impact.
And if you're listening and you've been inspired,
Yeah.
go check out their website, learn more about what they do.
Yeah. See how you can get involved,
Exactly.
whether it's, donating or volunteering or just even spreading the word.
I think that's what this deep dive is all about.
Yeah.
It's about learning and questioning
Yeah, it really is.
and empowering all of us to become, these agents of change.
Thank you for joining us.
Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.